you have to come down to Toronto. We have a seminar meeting. When I got to Toronto, we had the seminar. I took part and everything. Then I went back to Windsor because my home of residence is Windsor, Ontario, which is about 400 and odd miles from Toronto. The next day, my boss then called me and said, you know, your prime minister, that is in 84, 85, the prime minister, he said, a gentleman named Blaze or something. I said, yeah, Herbert Blaze. He said, he's in Toronto, and he have a forum with all Grenadians to come and speak on issues to develop Grenada and so. So he says, you could have a day or two to go to Toronto. I said, I want a week. My boss said, a week? You're crazy? I said, no, boss. If I can't get a week, I ain't going. Well, I guess, you know, as an island person, as myself, he's from Jamaica, knows how I feel about my country. He says, all right, you get a week. I took the week, drove down with my wife to Toronto at one of these big hotels. Prime Minister was there, media of all kind was there, and people asking the Honorable Blaze different questions with hands up and this and that, and I sat there, listened to everybody, and then finally I decided I want to ask questions too. So my hand was up for a while, and then Mr. Blaze says, okay, gentlemen. So I get up, state my name, where I'm from, and what I plan to do for Grenada. I says, I would like to come back to Grenada with the knowledge I have acquired in Canada, and Canadians don't need me here because they have a lot of brain here. I want to bring back some of the brain that I have into Grenada and develop Grenada. But my idea is to open up one of the best beach water sports pavilion, best pavilion, beach pavilion you'll ever see in the whole of the Caribbean. Somebody said, yes. I said, yes. The only thing that is stopping me from doing that is one, when you all Prime Minister come to this country, you all give us all kind of lip service. So when we come back to Grenada, we are called JCBs. Just come back, and we ain't getting nothing more than horrors and problems. So Mr. Blaze then turned to me and said, you know where the property is? I says, yes. On Grandlands Beach, I was going to deal with it with Sir Eric Matthew, everybody overthrew him. And now I would like to get the opportunity to do that. So he says, young man, I am assuring you, if the property that you're looking at and wants has nothing designated or allocated for, you will get it. So when he said that, I turned to the media and everyone around and I says, you all have that on tape? They said yes. I said, give me a copy. So they did give me the copy. I held the copy, and I found out when Mr. Blaze was coming back, the Honorable Blaze was coming back to Grenada, and he was coming back on a Thursday, I think. I went and made a booking on the Wednesday, but called his office from Canada and made an appointment to see him on Friday. So, and I got the rights. So I did that. I went and did that, and I end up coming down here. And when I came down to Grenada on the Friday, when Mr. Blaze saw me in his office, he freaked out. He said it, and I will quote him, young man, you're not the same young man I saw in Canada? I says, I told you I'd come in. Mr. Blaze pulled his glasses down, he looked at me and he laughed. I said, I told you I'd come in. Here I am. He called on the Honorable George Brizan to go with me to come down on this beach here to look at the property and to find out if anything had. They did find out that nothing was designated or allocated for this spot. Mr. Brizan was saying to me at the time, yes, that's a good spot, I like it. Anyhow, he decided that's a good spot and so on. But I didn't know that he was deciding the spot was good for somebody else and not me. So anyhow, we negotiating and we talking and so, but one day I come down to look at the spot I was going to get, and I see a big sign on this very said spot I'm stating ADC Dive Company. The same thing I say I'm coming to do here, these guys, along with one lawyer called Anselm Cloud, they has this Italian group that they decided was giving this thing over me. So they have this sign saying that ADC company coming and this and that. Now, I am DC, but I know where the A come from. So, but they say ADC, you know. So I even turned and told Mr. Brizan, take out the A because I'm Dorset Charles, DC, you know. However, when I realized they were going to try to boycott me, I ran back to Mr. Blaze, Honorable Blaze, and I told him what is going on. He was surprised and amazed. He said, what? I said, that's what's going on. They're trying to keep me out of this thing. He said, Mr. Charles, I'll give you the assurance that don't worry. I have a new man here. I have a man here that I'm going to reshuffle the cabinet. He's going to be in charge of lands and this and tourism. He then put the Honorable Ben Jones in there. And then he called me up and says, the Honorable Ben Jones would like to meet with you, and you will meet with him to show the... I went to the Botanical Garden at the time, met with Honorable Ben Jones. I had a blue Stella car at the time. He asked me if I have a transport. I said yes. He said, well, let's go. And we came down here. When I showed the Honorable Ben Jones what the place said, he said, man, young man, this is a great spot. I like it. For what you tell me you have, and I also had a little plan of what I wanted to put here. He said, that is exactly what I was looking for the top end of this beach. And I'm quoting his words. He said, that is exactly what I want to see up here. Shower, toilet, changing room, and water sports and this and that. He said, to brighten up on the top end. So I said, this is what I want to do. He then was so happy. He then sent me to physical planning. He said, to get my plan approved, send me to physical planning. I got a guy to do up, because when I go to physical planning, I had the thing, they said, no, you had to get into details, and so I had to come back. And I get a guy called Jim, a guy from America. I don't know if it's Transky or whatever is his last name, but he ended up doing a fantastic plan for me. He's a guy who I think done Tropicana. He did Koyaba, the first Koyaba. He did down at what we call Fantasia 2001. He did all these, and he's very good in those things. So he did a master plan for me. I submitted to a physical planning. It was approved. Then Mr. Jones then asked me to go to the IDC. He said he called up certain people already for me to go to get concession. So I went to the IDC and they tell me write out my stuff, what I'm going to bring in, what. They gave me a blanket concession in a sense to bring in boats and building material, what. I still have all that there. And so when I got all that, I came and I built 20 by 20 boat structure. Meanwhile, clean up the area and so. The Honorable Ben Jones came down to see what I did progressively and so on. And he came and said, that is what you built? I said, that is what I'm starting with, sir. He said, make sure you come quickly and build what we call concrete structure, something nice. Meanwhile, he had offered me an acre of land here. I said, Mr. Jones, no. Another Grenadian one piece. I only want half. He said, what? I said, I only want half. I don't want an acre, I want half. He said, let's go with me back to the Prime Minister's office. I went back to the Prime Minister's office with Mr. Ben Jones, and we met with Mr. Blaze again. And he then asked me, could you tell Mr. Blaze what you told me when I offered you an acre of land to do your project? I then told him, I told you I didn't want an acre of land. Another Grenadian one piece. Why should I have all that? Mr. Blaze then pulled his glasses down and looked at me and he says, you can be a kayak. So I looked at him and said, what do you mean? He says, no, a kayak will take the acre, lease out half, and use half of it. I started to laugh. And he told Mr. Ben Jones, make Mr. Charles right. I love his style. He ain't thinking for himself only, he think of others. So make him right. I then came down, do my thing. I ordered what I had. I think I brought in four or five containers with boats, a lot of gears, water sports equipment, you name it, I brought it, and I started doing my business. I construct one building, which I started to do, and I say I will do more. So I had one building constructed with 2 floors, and I decided to make a move. Mr. Ben Jones usually come and double check with me every so often to make sure things is going right, and people didn't give me a hard time and so forth. Well, things was going very good until 1996. Meanwhile, I didn't know a lot of people was against me for getting property, which was part of Grenada, and I'm a Grenadian. I didn't know I had to be a foreigner to get property in Grenada. But at the time, I thought, since I'm a Grenadian and I came back to put some of my money into Grenada, develop it, and also get the economy going by creating jobs for people and stuff, I thought people would love that. And they will more or less praise and push me up to the highest heights by saying what, hey, Dorset come back to do that. Well, let me help him out, boy. He has a good mind, he wants to do good for his country and so. Not knowing, people was trying to fight me down all along. They didn't want me to have the property. So in 1996, no, let me back up. In that instance of the Blaze era in the 90s, Mr. Blaze passed away and so on. They come up with a new Mr. Brizan then come up with the NDC party. The NDC came into power. Meanwhile, they decided they're going to attack me first. They were the first ones who attacked me here. To tell me that they're going to look into the property to put what they say? They want the property to put to put Cameron Park up here, and they're going to put me further up where the vendors market is now, and I'm going to they're going to move Cameron Park from down there because they want to sell that part of the land down there for a hotel project. So when I heard they were going to tamper with Cameron Park, I decided I go call up USAID. I had some connection there. So I called up USAID and I told them what was going on. And the gentleman I talked to, who was a big boy, he says they can't touch that park. It is not theirs. It's owned by us. We got the land from them. We bought the land from them to give it to the people of Grenada, so they can't touch that. So when I heard that, I felt relaxed. However, they didn't, they tried, they're telling me this and that. And at the time we had the Prime Minister, Nicholas Braffett, in power at the time. So I went to see him first of all and tell him what they were planning to do and thing. And he says, Mr. Charles, why I could tell you personally, they can't move you because you have documents proving that you have rights for the property and so on. So I said, thank you, sir. But what I have done is simply I turn around and tape Mr. Braffett telling me about my rights and so on. Several months after, Mr. Brizan and Mr. Braffett and them calling me and telling me, asking me when I'm going to move. I say, when I'm going to move from where? From the property. I says, Mr. Braffett, you asking me that? First of all, he said, when the call came in, I said, who is this? He said, the Prime Minister. I said, who Prime Minister? Nicholas Braffett. I says, yes, sir. What could I do for you? Mr. Charles, I want to know when you're going to move from. I said, move from where? He said, from the property and go higher up. I said, why must I move from the property? You told me that no one could move me. He said, you never said that. I said, okay, you never said that, hold on. And I go and get the tape and I start to play the tape. He said to me, you don't have the right to tape me. I said, because I know he was going to lie. That's why I tape you. That was a big thing because he called in Anselm Cloud into his office and deal with him because Anselm was my lawyer at the time and he was, I think, something to the government at the time too. I don't know. He was advisor. But he called him in and he got maybe chastised by the Prime Minister or whatever. So, but I tell him I'm not moving because I have this and that. When I was going to Canada at the time, there's a guy who used to work in the electricity company. He was down at the airport with me at the time. He was going to Canada too. His name is Barrel. They call him Barrel. And what I found out is that the Prime Minister sent a guy down. His name is Godfrey Ventu. He used to have no problem. Sent him to see me, to ask me if I could retract my statement on TV, stating that I said he's a liar because he had said it on the tape, and I have proof. But he didn't feel good about what I said, so he figured now I should refrain and take back my words. So he sent Mr. Ventu down to ask me if I could change my statement and say something different. I say I can't, and I wouldn't, because that means I'm going to be lying to the nation after I told him what was said, and what I told him is true. So why should I go and say something different? I say I'm not doing that. It's then I realized that people didn't like my straightforwardness, so they decided to go beat up on me anytime and every time. Anyhow, I didn't have a problem with that. I told him I'm not going to do so. Then Barrel turned to him and said, if anything wrong with that property, when we come back, we're going to have a real war in Grenada. So he said, no man, you're making joke. We ain't going to do nothing. Straight case, you can't go wrong. You know, that was his saying. So we left it. We jumped on the plane, we go. When we come back here, it kind of ceased. I didn't have a problem and so on. We walked out, and I then was called by at that time I was the chairman of the Water Sports and Charter Boat Association. So a few of these guys, like with the Rum Runner and Mr. Mennies and a lot of these guys, called me to a meeting to be attended at the Prime Minister's office, which is the same Nicholas Bradley. So I went into the meeting, and while I walked in there, I was addressed by the Prime Minister, Mr. Charles, the man who called me a liar. So I had no other choice but to laugh, you know. And we sat down. We had a great discussion, fruitful. At that time, I came up with the idea for the government. At that time, they didn't have the cruise ship terminal. So I said, and the issue I went to fight was one where that they wanted to lift the head tax for the tourist cruise ship coming in, but they was not giving them anything in return. So I told Mr. Braffett, that can't work so. You can't just up from $1 to $6 on the head tax, and the people are not getting anything new or beneficiary to them. The cruise ship looks for deals. So the suggestion was, what do you suggest? And I said to him, why don't we go to a government in the Bahamas, in St. Thomas or so, and get one of these big ferries, big ships, and we will ferry the people of the cruise ship into the port. And that means now it will show that why we need, and it will be justifiable why we need this, the $6 US. Mr. Braffett was very happy to hear that. He says, that's a very good idea. Same time I had some people who jumped in and said, that is what they were thinking about all the time. Mr. Braffett then said to Prime Minister, you had all your chances to speak to me and you were speaking, but you never raised that point. How come now you raise it as Mr. Charles come up with that idea? So I then turned and said, that is what they want to do. They take my idea and they want to bring it in. You know, so Mr. Braffett listened and so on. Lo and behold, about a year later or so, they brought in 2 boats and they were doing the ferry with them after that meeting. And I laughed. I said, look at it. I came up with the idea and somebody else is benefiting from it. I even brought it to the Prime Minister's attention and so on, but I left it alone. And these guys did that. Meanwhile, I was involved with a catamaran with a gentleman called Alston De Roche from Petit Martin. And we had the loafer. And a few elements of Grenada High elite start fighting us down with this loafer on the carronage. They don't want the loafer on the carronage. They don't want it by the fire station. They want this, they want that. Before, they didn't know nothing about the business. We were doing the business, but they wanted that business badly, so they tried to fight us down. Eventually they did. After a while, I see they brought in some of the same thing. They're doing the same thing we did with the same catamaran. They brought it in and started doing the same thing. I had to laugh. I said, look at that. They don't want us to have that. They want this and they want that. And look at them today. They fight us down and they get it. However, Mr. Dorset and I, we dissolved the thing. And well, now he's still into the same business with chartering, and he have a smaller catamaran. I moved on and I started doing my water sports. So we kind of are meshing the water sports, and so when people come here and they ride my jet skis and they ride my sailboat, and so we advertise the boat he has. We used to advertise the loafer, but after the loafer is gone, we advertise Tim Shell, which is what he has now, a catamaran, and we tell him there's a boat to go on and so forth and so on. The business was going very well until one day I found out a minister for the South came to me and said, he hear that they're planning to destroy me. And I started laughing. So I said, who planned to do it? He said, the government. I says, yeah, why? He said, they say you're squatting on government land. I says, well, if I were them, I would look and see if I get it relevant and the proper papers before they would say such a thing. But I said to him then, since you are the minister in this area, what did you tell them? And he turned to me and said, well, I could tell them. I can't tell them nothing. I said, you can't tell them nothing? And it's your constituency? Well, then you have a problem. Now, when he told me what they were planning to do, and I went and spoke to a few people telling him what I heard, he got angry and said I shouldn't tell people nothing. So I must sit as a sheep, get my throat cut, and say nothing. I said, but he has to be silly. So I told the nation what they were planning to do. They were planning to destroy me, but they're saying it was not true. But in 1996, they still came and destroyed me. So what I was saying, it was true. But what makes it real sad is that the leader of the party who destroyed me used to come and eat and drink here. You understand? That was, and he was my friend. And he was the man who fought against Brizan and them when they wanted to move me here. In the first instance, he was Minister of Communication and Works. And I found it was kind of strange that a man who say, if all you move Dorset, Charles, anytime I win and I get into power, I take in the land back from anybody or they give it back to Dorset. And not too long after that, he tried to take the land from me to give to somebody else. Imagine the double standard we have here. So I looked at that and I said, wait a minute, I can't believe what this guy doing. Anyhow, I decided I'm a Canadian citizen, and I hear them saying they want to move me to build a vendor's market. I had to laugh. So they're taking my taxpaying dollars in Canada, destroying me to put something which my money paying for. Could you imagine that stupidness? It's stupid, really. Anyhow, I call up to my representative in Windsor. He then, because he was the deputy leader of the party, the Liberal, he then brought it to the relevant authorities. He then tell me who to contact, who to talk to. I went and get involved with all of them. And I must say, the gentleman who's the Prime Minister now in Canada and his colleagues and so took a firm stand. Preston Manning, the Honorable Preston Manning at the time, and the Honorable right now, Stephen Harper, they took a stand and made sure to note that if they ever destroy me again or ever move me from there, no money, no funds from Canada will ever be building no vendors market here. So I got a letter from the High Commission stating such that no Canadian citizen would ever be destroyed to put a vendor's market for Grenada by the Canadian taxpayers' dollars, which Mr. Charles is part of the taxpayers' dollar. He is a citizen of Canada. So when Mr. Mitchell, who is the Prime Minister at that time, hear that, they went on public television I was a squatter then. I was a thief, a land thief. And I stole land, but I was below a stone, so nobody could have seen me here. You understand? But all of a sudden, we would not destroy Mr. Charles' property. And we would not take the property away from this. How all of a sudden I get to have the property again when I was squatting? Because they wanted that money, $1.5 million to build this horse stable over there, that junk. So they got 1.5 million Canadian dollars to build that. And that is maybe only about 700,000 EC dollars, maybe less, to build that. Because the sand, they didn't buy it, they stole some from me here. Right in the back here, they dig up some of the sand and go with it to build that vendor's market. So the Canadian government said, absolutely, positively, no way you could. So they had to come and build it there. But I was very shocked to know that a guy who stood up for me just flipped as a coin and decided to fight me down. And why? Because I would not support his party. I went and got into the party, which I have freedom of choice, where I want to do, when I want to do. I joined with TNP. So the gentleman who lead NNP didn't like that at all. So he decided to go and destroy me. So he sent his bulldozer, and they came 3 o'clock in the morning while me and my wife sleeping and destroy all my boats, my building, everything. But apart from doing all the wicked act to me, I decided I ain't going nowhere because I have legal rights. People say I should leave, I should this is all kind of thing. I was squatting all thing. But in Parliament, Dr. Mitchell decided he has to explain why they destroy my place and why they get me out of there, and I was squatting. And he said, Mr. Dorset Charles brought in Abu Bakr into this country here to overthrow his government. I mean, Grenadians does forget things, you know. I brought it. I don't know who the heck Abu Bakr is, but I brought him in, and I was sitting down here in the same property, holding talks with him to destroy NNP. Well, I had to laugh because George Brizan, the Honorable George Brizan, brought the document from Parliament for me. And I read the thing. And what he did was, he did it real well because he underlined certain things for me. And I read that quickly and I said, Mr. Brizan asked me, what faith am I? If I'm a Muslim, I say, Muslim? I said, brother man, since I know myself, I'm a Catholic. Not because you see I braid my beard. I'm a Catholic. I don't know that I'm a Muslim. So he said, well, this is what the man said. I said, I brought in Abu Bakr. I said, wait a minute. I think Mr. Mitchell is losing his head. What I think he is saying, and he wants to say, is the guy he brought in here with this long robe, and he was eating and drinking by me. It's not me who want to bring him in. He brought in the man himself and was talking with the man down here on my table here. So if he was planning to overthrow NDC, don't use me. You know, so I say, maybe it's he. And I say, if the man he had sitting, eating and drinking by me was Abu Bakr, well then I know who the man is by seeing him. But I don't know him. I saw him. So it was not Dorset Charles who brought in Abu Bakr, but was the same man who accusing me, Keith Mitchell, who might have brought him in by sitting on with this Muslim man here talking. So I don't know who the man was. So he know. So he said, I brought him in. So that's a low blow. So it fall back in his face. He had egg in his face. Anyhow, that happened. They smashed up my thing. They did all that. The case came. They tried to get me into St. Lucia once with the Court of Appeal after I won them. But I realized that if I go to St. Lucia, they might have something work out up there to cook up and catch me. So I claim I was sick. I couldn't go. I can't travel. Then they come to St. Vincent. They want to go again, and they try to dress it up by saying they'll pay a hotel bill, they'll pay your airline and so on. Why would you do all that for me? And you destroy me because you have something planned. I say I'm sick again. I get another doctor paper. I can't travel. When they were coming, when the Court of Appeal was coming to Grenada, I was so well that I was overwhelmed. and I'm ready for them. And when we got there and Lord Byron explained certain things and said certain things, I was so shocked. And he was so upset knowing that they will destroy a person, a son of the soil, and lie and so on. So Judge Byron judged in my favor, and I was happy. The problem was that after the judgment and all this thing took place, and I continue, I build back my place and I start doing my little stuff and so on. There was another case pending with an agent of the government where he told the judge that I gave him 3,000 planners in space of 2 minutes. Miss Mark, which was the presiding magistrate, wants to know if I was a robot, because she wants to know how come my hand could be so fast. This guy came in and dragged my wife out. I had no other choice but to beat him, and I had to do that. And I am fortunate to say that the police who they sent and the military who they sent thought it was wrong too. Although they couldn't do anything about it, they were there to protect him, I guess. And they were very upset at what he did, because my wife was ill and was confined to bed. And I could have the doctors verify that, because she got papers from Dr. Gittins to stay in bed for a couple of weeks because she was very ill, and he dragged her out. So I lost my head. You can't drag my wife out while she's sleeping there to break down a building. What you trying to tell me? You're making joke or what? Yeah. So I beat him badly, and I enjoy beating him too. I didn't have what you call a heart saying I'm sad. I was happy beating him. He was out of place. He was rude. You can't come in my place and telling me you dragging my wife out to break down my place. They break down, they steal drinks, they steal things, they this, that. Apart from that, Huggins and all came in and steal things here. And I could say that because they did. I didn't give them no authority to come here. They're saying government send them. But government could not have sent them on the property because it was not owned by government. They came in and steal certain equipment that I guess is theirs, but I rent it from them and I have a deposit. So if anything happened to it, they have the deposit anyhow, and I would have gotten it back from the court. And they went on to I took them to court, and they went on to win me, and I couldn't believe how they could win me. And I still don't understand how they could win me still for trespassing and stealing. If I win the government, I won the government here for trespassing and destroying. How could Huggins win me? And everybody wants to know what go on. Some of them say my lawyer sell me out, and I wouldn't be surprised that my lawyer didn't sell me out, because I found that it's strange. If I was destined to win and then still turn around and lose, how come that could be? And I'm not finished with Huggins yet. I still have something to deal with them on, because that issue ain't dead yet. I want to know how they could manage to come to my place and win me after coming on my property, taking things and going with it, and they acknowledge they took the things. It's not to say that they didn't acknowledge. They said yes, they take it and they have it in their possession. And today they still have it and they have not given it back, even though the court tell them to give me back my thing. They still have it. They have not given me back my stuff yet. Imagine that. So I went on to build myself back up. I put a big sign here, and I said, welcome to the historical place, Worldwide Water Sports and Lazy Days. And I give them a little synopsis of what took place here, by saying, if I say welcome to the place, as I say, the historical side, you want to know what the historical side means. So I said, in 1996, the government of Grenada, NNP government, came in and they smashed up my place 3 o'clock in the morning, bam, bam, bam. And if you need any further thing on that, see me, and I could give you in full detail what took place. Now, some of the people who even drove the tractor today is confessing and telling me the sorry and the this and the that. I forgive them in one instant, but then in the other I wouldn't, because they were dotish enough to fall for doing the stupidness to people. I look at it this way, that they should have let the minister of Agriculture and Lands come and do it himself. Or they should have let the Prime Minister come and do it himself. They should not have taken any part in that, but they did. And they mashed up all the equipment. And when I say equipment, 97 different types of boats I had here. Well, they didn't destroy the ones on the beach. They didn't go out on the beach. All the destruction is in here. And mash up building, mash up all. I had this building in the back. I had this one. I had one over there. I had roughly about 3-4 buildings to destroy all that. And I looked at them and I said, imagine that you want to tell people that you want what we call entrepreneurs to come back. People who come back from Canada, England, States, Germany, and so the government are saying to build Grenada. But yet still you're breaking down one who came back. So what are you telling the people? Where are you telling the people to go? And based on that, I turned around and told the nation that this government, NNP, was not a good government because it was not a caring government. They not a loving government because they didn't care about people. Because Dorset Charles alone didn't run Worldwide Water Sports and Lazy Days. 26 workers I had there at the time, they put out of bread and butter. And today they want to tell people that we don't like, the government doesn't like poor people and they're not taking it. Who am I a rich person? Well, I was a poor person they destroyed, and they destroyed him totally. But they thought they would have won me. But I have to thank the Lord that the Honorable Ben Jones was alive. I have to say thanks to George Brizan, he still came through for me. The same Nicholas Braffett came through for me. Finsley St. Louis was a Minister of Agriculture, he came through for me. And I had a lot of the heavyweights who showed that I was not a squatter, but I have owned this land. This land is owned by me, and I'm not a squatter. And I was not under coconut or conch shell when they came and, and they didn't hold dialogue. They didn't come and say, well, let me sit down and figure out what. Me and Mr. Ben Jones and Mr. Ashley Bonadine went to them, and Mr. Jones showed them how I have come to the land, in possession of the land, what I did, what I didn't do, how I did it, how I didn't do it. And they agreed. Meanwhile, they were having burning issues because my political career was at the peak and they figured I was going to win. So they had to do something to deter me from getting there. You understand? Because I was, first of all, I was given the chance and the right to run for the GLP party under Sir Eric Matthew Gary. Twice. And it was kind of where my mother was worried about me coming back from Canada, and she talking about guns and this and that, and she asked me if I would not consider not running and so on. And when your mother asks you certain things, you've got to go along with her when she's so loving and so nice. If it was a mother who didn't care and was not a nice mother, I might not have listened. But my mother, I wish you have a lot of mothers like her in the world, because she's the sweetest, the best. And I had to listen. So I listened to her. And apart from that, my father was a staunch Garyite at the time, but he also thought I should stay out of it too. And I did. That was the first time I could have won the South under the GLP party. And I didn't take that opportunity based on what I have just discussed. Now, but I took it to go with the several election after I joined the TNP, and I went along with the Honorable Ben Jones based on his cleanness in politics. Clean, when I say clean, very clean. I don't know who wants to say what one could say, but he was clean. Blaze was clean too. I couldn't say that they did anything wrong to me, or to my family, or to people I know. Anybody they did wrong to is people I don't know, and the people have to say that to themselves. That's their problem. I don't know. They have to. But Blaze and Ben Jones had done very good to me. Now, I didn't see anything going and joining them, because as I tell them, if you know you can't deal with me, then don't take me in your party. Say, what? I say, if you know that you're all not honest and you're all not clean, leave me out of your party. I would not be part of it. Mr. Ben Jones then claimed that he liked my spirit and he wished he could have 10 people like me in that party. I joined the party. I went along. The party had some flaws and it had some young men in there, which was what I call gutter rat. These guys was guys who was opportunists. They were not loving people who care about the country and care. They wanted to have power to use and abuse this power they have. But when I discovered that these guys was not so good and they ain't clean, I went to Uncle Ben and I says, Uncle Ben, we had to get rid of these guys. Uncle Ben then told me heard of some of the problems, the bad things that these guys, but it was too late. I think it was about 2 to 3 weeks before the election. So what could I do now? I said, get rid of them, let me go with 5. So God, we can't go with 5. I said, let's go with 5 clean ones and leave the other dirty ones out. But anyhow, he didn't feel it was right to do. We ran the election and we lost. And I tell him I thank God for that. He said, Dorset, you mean that? I say, yes. Because if we get these type of fellas to govern this country, we in trouble. Meanwhile, the party that won was NNP. And the theme was science and technology. I ain't know where science and technology go or what happened to it, because lots of young people who had the dream and hopes for this science and technology and the computer age and everything went down the tube, because it was only said science and technology. They used that because technology would have gone in agriculture and into health and into, forestry and different things like that. But it didn't go nowhere. It come from the mouth and drop on the ground and disappeared. That was where science and technology go. But anyhow, they won. I then went and get involved with a gentleman. No, first of all, the next election came up and I ran independent. And a lot of them start telling me, oh, and my getting involved as an independent candidate was based on the Honorable Ben Jones telling me, if you didn't like the both party you're getting involved with, to get involved, go independent. I was saying that would have been a nice move because a gentleman in St. Vincent done that. And that was Son Mitchell. And he won his seat. And they were tied 7-7. And he was the deciding factor. And he said to them, any one of y'all want to make me prime minister, then come talk to me. I think it was Cato at the time, if I'm not mistaken, who said, watch, listen, we ain't intend to lose now. Let me go to the man. And they made him prime minister. He won, I think, about 2 or 3 times. And that's how it was. So I decided, I didn't go in for prime minister, but going for the South in order to elevate and uplift and develop the South in a way that no one could say that the South wasn't going places, because I had good connection. But somehow they go and they decided, well, NNP with Mark Isaac was the way to go. I respect the people, but the people then realized that they vote a man who didn't do nothing for them and couldn't do nothing for them. They went, and I then went and I get myself involved after that election with PLM. And how I did it was, Mr. Kenny Lal Singh and myself decided we should get something together and get going. And we started up this thing every evening from my business place. I go up to Mr. Lal Singh place and we hold meetings and meet people and so on. And that's how PLM came about. It was called the People Labor Platform, not the People Labor Movement. And then we got Dr. Alexis involved, Dr. Fletcher involved, Winifred Strawn involved, we got Dr. Marisho involved, we got a lot of people, and we had one of the most solidest party that should have been the alternative today. But because again of greed and political melee, we then messed up again and we had this party dissolved. And it's a sad thing because right now in Grenada, we need the alternative party. We do need an alternative party because we have seen it over the years that two parties in power, when one makes his mistake and he come out, the next one go in. Then the next one make a mistake, the next one go in. The people haven't got no other choice but to vote one of them in. So now I am saying that I'm coming with something different. We have to have an alternative party, and it's time to have an alternative party in Grenada. And I'm going to see, but I have 2 years to get this alternative party going. And I'm going to go into it because I have lots of experience in the political field. Lots of years of experience in the political field. Rosie Douglas, the ex-Prime Minister of Dominica, was my very good friend and helped me with my thesis in Canada. I also, so John Compton was a person who did and gave me a lot of guidance in politics. So Eric Matthew Gary, before him, did a lot for me before and after. Howard Blaze and Ben Jones did a lot for me. So I have lots of background in the political arena. So apart from that, my representative in Ottawa, Mr. Herb Gray, I have been close to him. Pierre-Elliott Trudeau, René Lévesque in Quebec, I worked alongside these people. So I have a solid background in politics. So these who just jump in them, Johnny come lately and say they know about politics. They know nothing about politics. And politics is about people and country, not about self and money. And that's what they're doing. People and country, not self and money, and enriching themselves and having power to take advantage on people because they didn't vote for them or they didn't like them. You have to do like Sir Eric Matthew Gary done, win his enemy over. But these guys here don't know how to win nobody over. The whole hatred, they fight everybody down, and when coming to the election, they come and smile for you and want you to vote for them, and after the voting is done, they decide to destroy you after. So we have to change that and get into people who love the country, love the people, and wants to see things go good. And I'm saying, in closing, I want to see a healthcare system in Grenada like Canada. I'm going to fight hard. And long before I die, it must be implemented. A healthcare system must come into place where everybody in Grenada get free healthcare service. Everyone in Grenada, man, woman, and child, must get free healthcare. A Grenadian deserves that. Grenadian deserve having a healthcare system that is second to none, as Canada has. And we could take it and scale it down and let it work, and it couldn't work. So this is what I have on the agenda. And so in closing, I say thank you, and I want to say I want the support of the nation to help me to push a healthcare system to the highest level. Thank you.